David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist, neurologist, and Holocaust survivor. He also developed what's known as logotherapy, which I guess was modern existential analysis. This book is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, experiences in a concentration camp. Part 2, logotherapy in a nutshell. Part 3, postscript 1984, the case for tragic optimism. Now in Part 1, experiences in a concentration camp, Frankl explains that what he went through. And, first everybody was boarded onto a train with standing room only, and they stood there for hours, and then they reached the camp, the concentration camp, and that's where they were exposed to people walking around with just bones and skin attached to bones, raggedy clothes, barely alive. And, that was a shock in and of itself. And then they were taken to a shed where they stood for a long time as well to decide their fate. And some people were sent to the left and some people were sent to the right. And those who went to the left were immediately killed. They were gassed and cremated. And those who went to the right were able to work. They lived until they died from working and whatever else. He says that there are 3 mental reactions that a prisoner will go through at a concentration camp. And the first one is shock. Obviously, shock. Who wouldn't be shocked to see the things that he describes in this book? He says that people were shaved of all body hair. Not a hair was left. All they had was their naked existence. And they lost all possessions. He even lost his wife, his brother, and his parents. So they experienced these tremendous loss. And some prisoners even thought of suicide. They would call it running into the wire, which was an electrical wire around the camp. And the wire would shock them to death. Now the second phase is apathy. Prisoner has seen it all, done it all, gone through it all. They don't feel anything anymore. A child could come in frostbitten. It didn't matter. They didn't. It's not that they didn't really care. I mean, maybe some of them didn't, but they didn't have the ability to care. That part of them was turned off. And part 3 of the phases that they would go through is depersonalization, especially after liberation. The prisoner just didn't believe it was real. That it felt like a dream. It didn't seem real at all, even though it was. And some prisoners would act out and become perpetrators themselves after they were freed. So Viktor Frankl didn't go crazy. Why didn't he go crazy? He says that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Any man can, even under such circumstances, decide what shall become of him mentally and physically. As you can see, he made a choice, a personal choice, that he didn't let his imprisonment decide his fate for him. Now, he says that suffering is a part of life, and those prisoners who couldn't find a meaning in suffering or didn't have belief in God or belief in the future, they were doomed. And a lot of them would just die. That's why a lot of them did die. He says that, Nietzsche said, he who has a why to live can bear with almost any how to live, basically. So part 2, logotherapy in a nutshell. Logotherapy is just a method that focuses on the future. And he talks a lot about focusing on the future. He says you need a will to live. And that will to live is what propels you forward in life. Because if you don't have a will to live, you might fall into what's called an existential vacuum. And this is just brought on by boredom. But he also says that man has lost some of their basic instincts and traditions. So you don't have your instincts guiding you, and you don't have tradition telling you what you should do or should not do. So why wouldn't a person fall into this existential vacuum? In this vacuum, a person could get into drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, maybe even commit suicide. So you need a meaning to life. And he says, there are multiple meanings that a person can have in life. Create a great work, help people, that sort of thing. And part 3, the case for tragic optimism. He says that you need to remain optimistic in the face of the tragic triad, pain, guilt, and death. You don't want to fall into nihilism. Because if you fall into nihilism, you're like those people at the camp. You're doomed. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be a nihilist. So I'm going to end this video with a quote by Frankl. He says, "Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it." And he basically goes on to say that you need to focus on helping others. You need a cause bigger than yourself. Because if you are focusing on success so hard, well, for one, you might even become self-centered. And you don't want to do that, according to him. I don't think anybody should become self-absorbed so much even that they forget that there are others around them that might need some sort of help. So I suggest that you read this book. You could probably get it for a dime at a book sale or something. And if you want, you could go to eBay and get it for probably $3.99. I order a lot of books off eBay as well. You got to experience this book for yourself. This book is unbelievably amazing. I can't say how amazing it is. But anyway, talk to you later. Bye.